Okay, hey, I hope you guys are doing well. Wanted to make a video on gold. It's been a little bit since I've made a video on gold, and as you can see on the screen here, I'm looking at the gold futures. This is a daily chart. We have seen a pretty big retracement after hitting that $1,700 price point, and we are now currently trading right in those upper 1400s on the price of gold. Similar story if you're trading GLD, which is a gold-based ETF. This is basically the same pattern that we are seeing over there. So just wanted to briefly go through gold and some things that we want to see and some levels that we want to see hold and some potential levels as that will act as a resistance as we start to push forward. So you can see the futures have opened up here. We're trading at $1,495 on the futures. And what we're really going to be dealing with this week is this 9-day moving average. You can see it's been acting as a pretty solid resistance here. We haven't had a candle really poke through it all that much or close above it for sure here on the daily time frame ever since back in here early March, looking here at March 9th. Since then, we really haven't seen any push to the upside. It's really just been a downward trend. But where are we currently sitting? We're sitting on some levels that, acted as a support for a period of time and also acted as a resistance back here in the mid stages of 2019. And then once we broke through them and came back down, acted as a nice support before that nice push up to 1700. And that's going to be right around the 1450 mark. Now, I know that we've really only tapped it once. And we have seen a rebound since then, but I do want to put it in as a level just because I do think it is important and we are trading right around it. Okay, so we had that downward push, moved up, and now we're getting right back down to that $1,400 price point. If that doesn't really make sense to you, just remember that back here, as we were trending down for a period of time, we saw that be the bottom. That was the low. We didn't make another low. After that, we made a higher low. So the price, after when it bottomed, it was a little bit higher, not by much, but it was a little bit higher. We didn't come back down and touch 1400. So that marked our low for this downward trend. And now we've pushed up. You can actually see we had one wick that touched that 1450 mark. And then since then, we have just kind of been choppy back and forth, kind of looking for a space to consolidate or a price point to consolidate at. But nonetheless, we are currently trading right there in those upper 1400s. I want to see us bounce off if we even get to 1450. I'm not saying that we are going to get to it, but it is a level of support in my opinion. Now to the upper side, and this will be also clear on the shorter time frame that we'll get into, but looking at the 1520 price point as being a big resistance. And that's just one that we've been working with over the course of the past 6 months to a year as being a resistance. You can see right up in here was a resistance. We poked through it and sold back down, acted as a resistance, a little bit here, and then we pushed through. I'll go ahead and move into that shorter time frame here. We'll look at, let's look at the 4-hour. Probably need to get a little bit closer here on the hourly chart. So this is what I'm looking at. We have this little channel here between 1450 and honestly up here around 1482 is where I'd like to see a nice little support. That's a level that I've been looking at. And we actually saw a nice little pop after this downward trend. We got as low as 1468. So if you wanted to move this level down to 1470, you could. We saw a nice little pop, set a higher low, and I'm really wanting to start to see this curl up, and maybe we'll set a higher high from this 1513 mark and maybe come a little bit closer and start trading more towards this 1520 mark. A breakthrough that and the resistance that I would be looking at would be around this 1540 mark. If I can get it to come up on the screen. There we go. Would be that 1540 mark, which would be another 20 points up from there and another roughly 50 points from where we currently sit. And that to me would give an indication, okay, we have now slid down roughly about 200 points, a little over 200 points from these highs, around 1700, currently trading right around that $1,500 price point. And we've set these lows down here at a known support level. We are now kind of consolidating above it a little bit. We're still kind of shaky. We're still in this downward trend, right? These moving averages, at least on the shorter term time frame, are starting to level off, and that we might start to consolidate and see this upward trend. Now, some things that I would want to look at, as I mentioned before, was that we start to set a higher high as we continue on. If this starts to break down and we dip back down below this 1480 mark, and then we start, slowly trading lower and lower, and we start making new lows, that might be something that I would want to see us now hit that 1450 mark and maybe take some shares there, depending on how we get to that 1450 mark. So right now we're looking good. Again, we made a higher high. We consolidated right at that previous bounce, and now we're getting closer and closer to this 1520 mark. So that looks good to me. And again, after that would be roughly the 1540 mark. And then you could come up here and say where we had this little bit of support, a little bit of trading going on right in here, be right around that 1575 mark. And if gold really gets moving, this is a possibility to see it move to that level. As currently the markets are pretty volatile. So to see a move like that, depending on what's going on, that is definitely possible. I'm going to go ahead and toss on GLD. Again, this is probably one that people are a little bit more familiar with if they are trading gold. So again, this is roughly the same story. We came down here. This would be our 1450 mark down here, right around, we'll call it 137, nice round number. We set in a little bit of a higher low, and then another consolidation right around that 138 mark. You see, we're moving up by the dollar increments, which is nice. So there was that 138 mark. Then we moved up. We can see we have a bit of a resistance right in that high 141s, right to 142. Again, we have these moving averages pushing down, starting to level off here on the 50 and the 100-day. And then the 200-day is still pointing down, but it looks as if it is starting to level off. So if we see a push and a hold above 142, that will be a good sign to me that gold is starting to regain some of that momentum from this fall down from 160, and it might be good to start a small position as we start to make these higher highs, and we would break through some of these levels. So as we open up on Monday, it'll kind of start to give us a little bit of a better idea where we are going to move as the futures. There's not as much volume trading, but when the market opens tomorrow morning, it'll kind of give us a better gauge as to where we are going to see gold, as it has, slid from these levels down, down about, let's see, what was that percentage there? If we can get it to come up. Down about 14%. And if we can get back up to those levels, that'll be a nice profit as if we, continue to add some along the way. So I hope this video was beneficial to you guys, that you got maybe a little bit out of it, and can help your trading strategy. So thank you guys very much for watching.